Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back in War Thunder having a look at another devlog for the next major update. This is Infantry and it's talking about the testing details. Remember, War Thunder is getting Infantry and in the next major update, it is going to enter CBT, which is closed beta testing. This pretty much means that you can actually get access to Infantry pretty early before everybody else. All you got to do is apply on the War Thunder website and you can have a bit of fun. There are some stipulations, such as there are certain platforms that can get involved. Linux or Microsoft and Linux on PC can get involved. PlayStation 5 and also I think one of the Xboxes can get involved too. You can see it right here. And hopefully, people will have a bit of fun with it. In this video, we're going to go over some of the details of the Infantry CBT and the way that they're going to be staging it, and also what to look forward to. As somebody who has played a lot of Enlisted, which seems very similar to what they're doing in War Thunder, to be honest, apart from Enlisted being a Second World War game and this Infantry being a modern take on that, a lot of the mechanics are very similar to it. And also somebody who's played Active Matter, which Active Matter is the new kind of Stalker-esque extraction shooter that Gaijin have made, which, to be honest, is actually really fun. Definitely worth having a look at. There's a lot of assets which are being used in that game, which are being transported into War Thunder. So let's talk about it. What is happening with this? Well, they're going to do kind of the standard thing that War Thunder has done for a while with new game modes and also new types. They haven't done one of these for ages because, to be honest, they haven't added a new set of modes in ages. The last one is probably helicopters or even naval, where we had the CBT and then the OBT. The way this usually works is, first of all, you apply to get access to the CBT. Some of you will get in, you'll be able to play it firsthand, and then what they'll do is they'll gradually do more waves of people into it, and then they'll probably add in some packs that you can purchase, so therefore you can get access to the CBT, and then later along in the year, like whether it's like next year or the year after, then it will go into OBT, and it will be available for everybody. Gaijin used to do this all the time for new nations, and also used to do it all the time for new sets of game modes, and it looks like they're going back to that kind of setup. This means that they can get a decent amount of players playing it, but also at the same time it gives them the wiggle room to test things and also improve things before it's out into the major public. So if you do get access to CBT battles, the first thing is the events will take place in the events and tournaments section. There's going to be two separate game modes. So you're going to have arcade and you're also going to have realistic. They're pretty similar. The only difference is that arcade will have markers for the soldiers and vehicles with mixed lineups, whereas realistic won't have the markers, and also it'll be more realistic, which means that you will have nation versus nation. At the moment, when it comes to this Infantry CBT, it's going to be America versus Russia, which, at least for me, is very refreshing. One of the problems that I feel like a lot of modern games have been doing is they've been removing the nation component and instead replacing them with like PMCs or private military companies or corporations, and that's just to not offend anybody. And to be honest, that's away from the core of War Thunder and also away from the core of military action. So it's nice to see that Gaijin is actually going along the route of sticking to nation versus nation combat. So in arcade, it will just be everyone versus everyone, but in realistic, it will be specific nations versus specific nations. When they bring in the CBT first, it will be America versus Russia and their corresponding equipment that we'll have a look at. But that doesn't mean that those are going to be the only nations that are going to be added into Infantry for War Thunder. Those are just the starter nations, and then they'll expand, just like they have with ground, just like they have with naval, and just like they have with also Air 2. More nations, more equipment, more weapons, and also more access to different technologies, and that will come in the future. But right now, what they'll want to do is try and sort out the general testing of the game and make sure everything works before they start expanding on that type of thing. And one of the parts that they're also going to be doing is bringing in new maps, of course. The War Thunder maps are just not designed for infantry. whether it is the updated details that are required in terms of graphics. If you've ever played Enlisted or Active Matter, there is an extra kind of depth to the graphics compared to a lot of War Thunder maps, and it's just because it's more close quarter combat. You see things at a higher detail, right? And that's basically what you're getting out of this game too. They put some screenshots of the map which is going to be used. This is Granitorad, or Granitorad, or however you want to say it. It's pretty much just a standard area in Eastern Europe, and it will have mainly close quarters fighting, but there are some open streets that you can see where you can use vehicles on. And that's also another part of this. In arcade and also realistic, the arcade mechanics work very similarly to ground arcade, where what you're able to do is if you do well enough in your infantry, you can bring in support. So you can bring in like a gun run from a helicopter that you can use. Whereas in realistic, you will have lineups, which are based around vehicles and also infantry squads, because the way that infantry work in this game is exactly the same as enlisted. So if you want to see how the infantry is going to work in War Thunder, it's the same as enlisted. You don't play just as an individual person every time. You have a squad of people, usually like 3 to 9 people in each squad. You're able to quick switch between them. You're able, some of them being engineers, some of them being machine gunners, some of them being assaulters, all with like different perks or different kind of setups to them, different guns and all of that. And through those, if you die with like one guy, you can just quick switch to the next one, or you can set up, let's say, a beacon in an area, like somewhere to spawn, and then you can go to the next area, and you can just keep doing this over and over again. Enlisted, I've actually played quite a lot on the channel. There's plenty of videos of it. Completely shows how that worked. Unfortunately, they pretty much annihilated Enlisted with the vehicles and also a lot of the other changes that they made, which made me kind of fall out with that game. And hopefully they don't do it with War Thunder. Seems like they are, so we'll see how it goes. But that's the general idea of it. Now, equipment, let's talk about it. Since it's America versus Russia, you have a ton of equipment from both sides. For America, you're looking at the M4A1, the M16A4, stuff like the M249 as well, and even the Mac 11, which will be kind of funny. And for vehicles, they're adding in the M1 Abrams, so you can bring that in, the M3A3 Bradley, and also the Apache, the AX-64A. For the Russians, you have stuff like the AK-74 and the AK-12, stuff like the RPK, which will be really fun, the Bison, and also things like Manpads, T-72B tanks coming in as well, the BMP-3, and also the Mi-24V helicopters, which will be available in realistic battles. Now, it doesn't say if you have to grind these things out in terms of the overall game to be able to use them in these battles, but my guess would be yes, because of the fact that that's how it kind of works in other game modes. There are other vehicles which are kind of littered around the maps as well, like you can see over here, the kind of like, not APC, but the truck vehicle that the Russians use and also like the Americans use, which is, I think it's called like the MRAP or something like that. But you can also see it in this one here. Like maybe you'll be able to use these, or they'll just be kind of like decorations around the map, which is more standard for these types of things. You also have access to a bunch of different modifications that you can add to your guns. So you have stuff like red dot sights, different sights, you have grenade launchers, laser sights, bipods, all of these different things that you can customize your guys with. And before a battle, you can use different presets to give them additional stuff. So whether it's engineering charges, more grenades, reconnaissance drones, FPV cameras, all of these different things. And that is another part of this. It isn't just infantry. It isn't just vehicles. They're also adding in a bunch of drones that you can control as well, which they do have in Active Matter, but they just don't work very well. So maybe that's not something that's going to go too well, but at least that kind of exists. So overall, you have a lot of stuff going on in this, and it's going to be very, very different compared to what you've seen before when it comes to War Thunder, but there is a few similarities compared to what's there before. Guess what's back? That's right, it's the domination zones. So the maps will be domination. There'll be 3 caps, but they'll be seen as buildings. So you'll have to kind of take over the buildings in order to take the caps. And once again, if it works like Enlisted, which everything else that they've indicated so far will be, it will be majority cap. So if you have, let's say, 9 people on the cap and other teams have 6, that means that you will cap the point. So it doesn't work like standard War Thunder, where you have to clear the cap in terms of it. So I think that would actually be really cool and generally would be a lot nicer. So the closed beta will be starting with the release of the December update of War Thunder. I don't know how long it's going to be able to exist for in terms of the game itself. I don't know when it will go to open beta, but it is pretty cool that they're adding this in. And what I'll do for you is we'll have a look at it, we'll go through it and see what's kind of going on with it, and you guys should get involved too. It's always nice to play new things. It's always nice to try new things. As always, when it comes to War Thunder, they're just going to continue to expand everything, even to areas where you wouldn't even think of. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.